Good morning, all brothers and sisters from all over the world. So happy to see everyone today again. And today we actually have a lot of brothers and sisters together with me. We have brothers and sisters from Canada, from Sri Lanka, and from Singapore joining us. Hi! Yes, okay, yeah, so I'm not lonely again. Yay! Okay, so let me begin with my sharing. I'd like to share on, well, true emptiness and wondrous existence, because I happen to be writing a master degree thesis on it, which it's still, well, halfway from emptiness towards existence. No forming start to coming together. So this is just part of my the beginning of my thesis that try to what I want to do is try to explain clearly what Master mean when she says true emptiness and wondrous existence. Because every time when Master says 真空妙有, and it's like, well, no, that's too difficult to me. And then many a time we kind of just shut down and then thinking that it's really too far away from what we could really understand. So, oh, let me double check myself. Do you hear my voice? 1, 2, 3, do you hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. If you hear me, please give me a message. All right. Okay. Cool. Okay, then, brothers and sisters from Cheras, you might want to check again. All right. Thank you. Okay. Cool. Okay, let me continue. So, I want to tackle this issue with 3 parts to it. So today I'm going to touch on true emptiness from how I can understand it. And so I split into 3 parts: true emptiness, wondrous existence, and its application. Because we all know that a good teaching is only useful when we applied it. So so I think that part is very important, which I'm going to touch maybe a little later on, maybe next session or the session after that. So for today, I'll first begin with what's true emptiness and how I came together with all these things. Actually, I gathered 180 pieces of Master's teaching on true emptiness and wondrous existence, and read through all of them. I don't know how many times I've read through, and then try to gather into a summary of what I could understand. And so here we go. Okay, so let's first understand emptiness. And in emptiness, it's how do you know about emptiness in the truth of it? Because there are some observations that we could observe from this natural world that tells us that actually it's truth, it's empty. Right? Because we need the forms in order to see what's the formless, the truth behind it. And so what do we see? So these are 3 things that I've gathered that tells us that actually really behind all things, it's empty. And first, it tells us that everything, what do I call it a thing? Because actually it's this thing that we're talking about is not the thing that we normally think about, because when we think about thing, it feels like that thing is really there, but really over here we're talking about everything is empty, and that thing it's really not fixed, permanent, never change kind of thing, which we're going to talk about later on. So this momentous thing that we now see around us, it's never permanent. It always changes. When we see that everything changes, there's no permanent forms to it. So we say that the thing itself is actually not, well, it's not permanent. So so in a way we use this word empty to describe it. It's very hard to use some other words to describe it. So it's empty because it changes. Second thing is because everything are things put together. And when you take it all apart, it just wasn't there anymore. Okay, so I'm going to touch on that later on also. And third is that because everything really is just names, in the sense that it's us, conscious beings. that give the names. But really, many other things, they are actually equal. They are the same things, but we just give it the names. Okay, so first thing first, everything changes. And say, for example, Master gave this example. We see rice, we eat rice. And if I ask, well, where does the rice come from? Well, it comes from the husk, if I'm not wrong, the husk. Okay, and then we will ask, where does this come from? Well, it comes from the rice paddy, the rice stalk. Okay, and we ask, where does this rice stalk come from, the plant? Where does it come from? You know, we have to go back, maybe the soil and the seed, and of course the oxygen, the carbon dioxide, the air, and then rain, water that makes it all go as it is. Now, if we're going to ask, so where does the soil come from, or where does the seed come from? Now that becomes difficult, because then it's an endless question. If we ask, where does everything come from, and then it just goes on and on forever, and we trace to the very, 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 very beginning that really, at least in Buddhism sense, there's really no beginning. Because everything has a cause to it, and the cause itself also has a cause to it, and all the causes itself has all the more causes to it, and so it just has no beginning to everything. And when we see that everything is just in the kind of time dimension that it was not like the rice that we see just now. The rice is not rice; it was something else, and that something else was something else, and so it really just comes to be what it is. Okay, it just comes to be as what it is. Like this moment, this instantaneous time, and before and after, it has changed all the time. And so that's why Master summarized this world into these 3 principles and 4 stages, as 4 states of phenomena. And she categorized it into the 3 principles: the physical, the biological, and the psychological. And each of these has 4 forms to it. Like in the physical, we see form. Things will form from emptiness. Things form, exist, it decay, and then disappear. And biologically, we are born, we get old, we sometimes become ill, and then we pass away. Psychologically, our thoughts arise from emptiness, also arise, and then you abide, and you change, and at the end, it ceases. So when we look at the world around us, we see that all is included in these 3 principles. All the things we see are physical, it's biological, or if not, it's mental. So it's within all these 3 principles. And we see that really everything comes and goes. Like this earth, everything changes, and nothing really is what it is forever. So let's look at, for example, many of our brothers and sisters who have joined us earlier, I borrowed my slides from over 1 year ago, where I actually shared also on this emptiness topic, like, who am I? Okay, yeah, and we see that actually from we were just the embryo inside the mother. We were going to ask before that where we are. It's really hard. Are we the sperm? And then before that, where we are? Are we our parents? And then our parents, where do they come from? Our grandparents, and where do our grandparents come from? No, it just goes endless. And then after which we were born, every time we are just a different self every second. And how do we know? Because well, I actually thought I would take 15 minutes to reach here, but well, we only reached 10 minutes. But in any case, actually more than 1 billion cells have already died. Ever since the beginning of this sharing, over 1 billion of our own cells in the body have already died from the beginning of this sharing. And in fact, after 7 years, in average, after 7 years, nearly all our cells will have changed at least once. So, who are we? I mean, if we are not this body that we are talking about, then who exactly are we? We are actually just snapshots of certain instance of this collection of atoms and cells. And after 7 years, we are really another collection of cells. So really, we are all in this very constant change. That and so this me that I'm talking about is just a name that I use to point towards this this sort of collection of, but which I'm not really pointing towards that collection of atoms, the material, because that material changes all the time. So who are we really talking about? So this thing really isn't, not because it's very hard to describe, it's just really not there. But we give it a name in order to easily point towards that thing. Right? So so this is what we talk about. When everything really changes, it becomes very difficult to really point out what is a thing. And so we call that state emptiness. It's as if it's empty, but we all know it's not really the empty thing. It's there, but it's just not really the thing that we always think it is. Okay, and then second thing, because everything, more things put together. For example, this car. If you're going to tear it all down, this is still a car. I mean, this car, after I take it all out, in fact, I don't need to take all out, I just need to take some pieces out of it. It's not really that car anymore, one. Two is, now it's just tires, it's wires, it's metals, it's the screws, it's the, so is the screw the car? No, not really. Is tire the car? No, not really too. Is the leather chair the car? It's not also. I mean, it's only when all these affinities come together, then it becomes the car. If I am going to just take out any of it, it's no longer the car. So what is a car? It's just that when everything affinities come together, that it is. When I take it out, that it no longer is. And each of these components, say the tire, if I'm going to take out the rim from the tire, the rubber tire, then it's not the tire itself anymore. It's just rubber and metal rim. If I'm going to break down the rim again, the rim is no longer there. It's just pieces of metal. If you're going to take out the metal, it just becomes atoms. If I take out atoms, it becomes protons, electrons. If I take out the electron protons, it becomes quarks. And if I take out the quarks, it becomes, well, that's hitting the edge of the science. Maybe it's string theory, so we might hit the imaginary strings that we're talking about, or maybe the quantum waves that we're talking about, or maybe so on and so forth. But actually, even in science, everything actually comes from vacuum. You can search vacuum states or on quantum vacuum. That actually this vacuum definition is if we empty everything, all the materials from this space, and we cool it down to absolute zero, that means no energy, because the energy and the material is actually kind of the same, because E equals mc squared, of Einstein, E equals mc squared. So energy and material is almost the same thing. So we want to take everything out, we got to empty the space of materials and also cool it down to absolute zero. And if, for example, we are going to do that, that vacuum of really, really nothing still has something. There's still, we call it quantum fluctuations, where matters and antimatters will appear and disappear. For the scientific people out there, really, everything really comes from vacuum. It really comes, it's so literal. It really comes from vacuum. And from out there, only when things are pieces together, and then it has the effect of something. Yeah, when the crabs come together, it has the effect of the proton. When the proton come together, it has the effect of the atom. When the atoms come together, then it has the effect of iron, carbon, oxygen, and all those. And then when those put together, then we have the tires, the rims. And when these put together, then we have the car. So it's, you can break down everything into emptiness, and then from emptiness, we can form everything from it. And so what is it? It's just really just putting things together. And then when it put together, we give it a name, right? So again, from this point of view, we see how things are really not what it is. Okay, just names. How is it? For example, again, this table, well, it's empty. When, for example, this table, if I'm going to take one leg out of it, is it still a table? And say, for example, if I'm going to sit on it, is it still a table, or does it become a chair? Now, if I'm going to I'm going to wipe the window and I put a chair on it and I stand on it. Now, is it still a table? Or is it more of a chair? Or maybe it's more like a stool? Or is it just a platform? You get what I mean? I mean, this table is just a name when we really sit on it and put a paper on it when we start to read or write, then it's really a table. If not, it's really not what it is. I mean, we can use it to do many other things. You know, I mean, I remember childhood and I always put a table down. I mean, use it like a block, like a barrier, and we start fighting each other. Then there's no longer a table. So really, it's just, again, it's just name that we put onto this material that we use. So another example that Master used is that when we see water and we see ice, well, there's ice, and then we see vapor. I mean, these three things are so different. How do you know they are the same? Well, of course, but because of the of science, and we know that, well, it can transform from one to another. Of course, before that, because of the realization, many people have thought that they are three different things. But really, they are the same. They are water. But why do we give it different names? Just because it's in different forms. It's in different forms, so we give it different names. But really, we know that they are the same thing. But of course, this comes easily because we have all learning from primary school that water, vapor, and ice, they are the same thing. So we know they are the same thing. But of course, before we are such people, we have not known that PET bottles can make it to cloths. And we think it's really amazing. But when we think in this sense, actually, it's not so amazing anymore because it's really the same thing. The blanket we make from the PET bottles, they are really just PET. And no, it feels so amazing, but really they are the same thing. So when we realize that, we find they're the same thing. But many a time we attach to this form. So we attach that this is a bottle, so it remains as a bottle, and it makes our environment really messy. And so on and so forth. We realize that it's really not a bottle, it's PET, then we can transform it back. So all our recycling is really based on this idea of true emptiness and wondrous existence, because we know that the true essence of everything is not the rubbish itself. We can transform it into its true nature and make it into something else. And of course, before we know, diamond is something very, well, pricey. But we know that it's really just charcoal. I mean, it's carbon. It's really, really the same thing. And it's really more, our pencil lead is also carbon. And in fact, our body is carbon, and the plants are carbon. It's all carbon. So it's really the same thing. But no, when we look at it, it's just so different, but it's really the same. And say, for example, look at our computer chip. We thought, I mean, how would we know? The material that made that up is actually the same as sand. I mean, sand is silicon dioxide, and the main we make the things we make with our transistors is silicon. And so it's really the same thing, but we just made it into different things. But really, it's the same thing. So, so again, really, things are the same. We just give it names. And so, because of these three observations, we see that everything is really empty. Nowadays, we realize of this true emptiness. What does it mean? What does it mean? Oh yeah, nothing really exists. I mean, it's just in youngsters we have a word called 我见乎. There's nothing I need to care. I can just do anything, right? I mean, since everything I can really just make everything up, and then I can do anything. Is it really that? Because everything's empty, right? I mean, yeah. So, but Master says, no, of course not. Of course not. For example, Master gave an example. If I'm thirsty, if I have a cup of ice and a cup of water, of course, I still have to drink water. I mean, even though they're the same, but they are still different. I mean, I still have to wait for the ice to melt in order to drink if I'm thirsty, right? So it's just like Master used this example to say that although we are the same, as in sentient beings, heart, Buddha nature is the same, but it doesn't mean we are already Buddha. We are just like, it's just that we are like ice. We are like ice, we have not yet melted. Yeah, we are so stubborn. We're still so attached and fixed and cannot change. And so we are like the ice. If we can, eliminates that stubbornness, that attachment, then it's like the ice melting and become water. And we can, if we want to go further to become more empty, the water, when it becomes water vapor, it disappears. So even the water itself comes from affinities. And even that water itself, when it disintegrates, is no longer there. So that's the true emptiness, and that's Buddha nature. And we all have that really flexible, really true state. But that understanding tells us that we can change, and it's not that we already are. So I think that we have to understand that emptiness is not equals to empty of all principles. There are still principles that we follow. There's still 因缘果报, that affinity, the cause and conditions is still present. There's still a lot of physics, a lot of nature that is still present. There's still the 三理四象, the 4 states, 3 principles that is still present. So all of these are present, but these presents are like principles, and principles, you don't see it, you only feel the effect. We know that it's there, but how do we see it? We only see it from the material things. We see that things change according to certain forms, certain principles. We follow some principles, and from these forms, we see that these principles are present. So these principles are present. They are not empty, but it's just that we cannot see them directly. We cannot say, no, we cannot show it. We're going to show it from some things. So this is what we meant when we say 真空妙有, when we say emptiness and wondrous existence. And so really, when we realize true emptiness, it tells us, it actually helps us. What the true benefit of it is help us not to be worried when we see changes. Because we know that now changes are just natural. 生住异灭, the 4 states are just the normal states of change of things. And so, for example, when we pass away, we know that it's just normal change. And so that's why so many of our brothers and sisters sign up for the silent mentor, or for organ donations, or for bone marrow donation and things like that, because we know that this body is really just a material, that we do not own it, we only have the right to use it. And when we know that, when finally we lose the right, this body could be used for better purpose. So we are no longer worried by such changes. Okay, and second is, we will not be attached to material, because know that all materials are just names that we give to them. And when we say that this is my phone, there's no my on it, It's really just me saying that it's my phone, but it's a name I given to it, but really its true state itself, there's no my on it. So it's just a name. So when we know, so everything that is I, supposedly, is really just because I said it. It's the name that I given to it. But it's true, it doesn't really have that in itself. So when we see that, we will not be attached to all these materials, thinking that all the things are mine, and when I lost it, as we already said, no need. Third, we can really make use of materials, because we know this yin and he, things coming together. We know of the principles, and so we can actually make use of it, not for our own benefits. We use it to do good, So that's why we still go out and help people, not thinking that everything's empty, so there's really no need to do anything. That's not right, because suffering is not empty. Suffering is true feeling that sentient beings felt. And that is true to the person. It's a very subjective thing. And it's so real to the person in suffering. So that suffering is not empty. And we need to go and help people be away from suffering. Again, suffering is sort of, you cannot see it. You only see the forms of it, but you cannot say that it's not there. And that we want to eliminate, because that's just, there's no reason why we need to do good. There's no reason why we want to end suffering, because it's just a hope. It's just a vow. It's just a hope. We want this world to be better. We want everyone to be happy, and so we do it. And I'll touch on those ideas later. So I want to end up this with a video that I really like very much from Thich Nhat Hanh, 一行禅师. They recently had this documentary, actually like a movie, 那个正念的奇迹, the miracle of mindfulness, which I really like. So I took this short segment from one of his Q&A with small children. It's very interesting how Thich Nhat Hanh, before every of his sermon, he will hold a Q&A, and the top guest is kids, because he said with kids, their heart is so pure. Some of the questions they ask could be so deep and profound. And so I pick up this one that I think some of you might have saw it before, but let's watch this again together. It's about 5 minutes. So I have a doggy, and we put it on very sad song on how to be so sad.
My friend shared that she has a dog. She had a dog, and the dog passed away. But she doesn't know how to feel Lotus. She'd like to know how to feel less sad about her dog passing away.
This is a very difficult question. Suppose you look into the sky, look up into the sky, and you see a beautiful cloud, and you like the cloud so much, and suddenly the cloud is no longer there, and you think that the cloud has passed away. Where is my beloved cloud now? I want to know. So if you have time to reflect, to look, you see that the cloud has not died, has not passed away. The cloud has become the rain. So if we are lucky, we can see the cloud in her new form, which is the rain. And when you look at the rain, you see your cloud. And when you drink your tea, mindfully, and you can see the rain in your tea and your cloud in your tea. So the cloud has not died, and you can see, hello, my cloud, I know you have not died. You are still alive in a new form. So doggy is the same. Doggy has not died. Doggy has become something. And if you look very deeply, you can see doggy in his new form. Because nothing can die, including our dog. It just change the form and become something else, like a cloud. So please think about it, meditate, and then you will not be sad anymore. For those of us who have a friend or a member of the family who has passed away, sadness is there. if you look deeply, you see that that person hasn't really died. That person continues always, but we have to look to find out the new form, the new appearance of that. So if you can recognize your cloud in the rain or in the tea, you can also recognize the continuation of the person who has passed away. And maybe that person is still very close to you, or even inside of you. So this is why Buddhist meditation can help us. It helps us to dissolve that kind of sadness in you when you feel that you have lost something very close to you.
So thank you. Really thank Venerable Pingat Khan for sharing this. I think it inspires me a lot that things change, but it just transforms into different forms. And really in everything around us are the whole universe in different forms. And so when we see that, that's why in this last chapter that that Master has been sharing on the Lotus Sutra, the lifespan of the Buddha is infinite. There's no beginning, there's no ending, because it just keeps transforming and transforming and transforming, and it's always around in this world. And in fact, everything in this world is like this. And so nothing really dies, nothing really passes away, nothing really disappears. It's always there, it just transforms. And when we know that everything is just a name that we given to it, it's the name that disappears, but everything is just still there. It transforms, and we see that we are no longer sad. Okay. So am I sharing here? Buddha's heart is our heart, as a mission or submission. Thank you so much. And because I know that we actually have Brother Robert from Lesotho to share with us again.
Brothers and sisters around the world, good morning, everyone. Okay, I think we'll just. Yeah. Okay. I think we'll just try this for a few minutes. If the audio quality is poor or the video quality is not good, just let me know, and I think I won't. We can always reschedule for another time. But look, here's a picture from last week after the sharing last week. As I mentioned to everybody, I was out with Sister Jennifer Chen doing relief distribution in the Sutra, and this is one of the pictures of some of the volunteers who are riding around in the back of this four-wheel drive. In total, over the 2 days, we distributed 14 tons of rice. So 1,400 bags of rice to 1,400 families. And we did this in to about 12 villages, and these villages were all over the country. So we spent the whole weekend just driving from village to village, giving out the relief supplies. I see this picture's just changed there, but you can see all the people lining up. People were very patient waiting, sometimes for several hours for us to get there, and the roads were very poor, and it took a long time to get there. This next picture, when it changes, is of a number of school children. Sorry, I can see it hasn't actually changed. Okay, now I think it's changing. You see here, we did one distribution at this school. There's about 200 students at this school. What was interesting about this school is about 3 kilometres off the main road, and the road to the school was very, very poor. And the village was next to the school, and in the village there was no water. All the wells had run dry, so the families and the people had to walk all the way down. In the distance, you see sort of a dip. There's a river down there. They had to walk a few kilometres to the river. Okay, I'm just trying to change to the next picture now. Okay, which I think hopefully is changed now for everyone. In Lesotho, there are 16 local Basotho, which are the indigenous people here, commissioners. This is one of them. This is Sister Maria. Before we did the relief distribution, they explained a lot about Tzu mission and what have you, and including the bamboo bank. And people were very, very kind, and they understood what was being explained. And even though they were very poor, they were happy to donate as well, which was very touching. You see, so a lot of the people here too are very, are very deserving of help. And life in Lesotho is tough for a lot of people, but even more so for somebody like this lady here. And I actually spoke to her for a while, and she was very, very positive and had a very happy outlook on life, even though she's in got very challenging circumstances. In Lesotho as well, most people don't have cars to drive around in. The main form of transportation is by foot or by donkey. And in some of the villages, because people had quite a long way to come, up to like 5 kilometers, we drove away 5 kilometers and we saw people still walking, carrying the rice. So other people were more prepared, and they bought their donkeys, which is a very common form of transportation. And as they collected the rice, the village would load up these donkeys with the rice and then take them back home with them. Now, this video, hopefully the audio quality and the streaming will work, but this is a fascinating video that I took. It's Sister Jennifer Chen teaching these villagers how to say Tzu. Oops, sorry, let's go back and push play. Video, and most of the villages were like this. And even though these people are very simple means, very humble lives, they have a very pure heart, and it really enjoyed the event. And I have to say, Sister Jennifer Chen organizes these relief distributions almost by herself. I mean, it's absolutely incredible the work that is done in Lesotho. I mean, I know Master Chen Yen often talks about Lesotho, but when you see it firsthand, you just cannot be not overwhelmed with what a fantastic job that they do here. Okay, now on to what I promised to talk about, which is Australia. So I'll go quickly through here. This is a picture of my wife, Sharon, and as most people would remember, that she was diagnosed with leukemia last November, so just over 1 year and actually 2 weeks ago. And the doctors told her at the time her chance of survival was just 10%, and she just had 4 to 6 weeks to live, which of course 10% chance of survival means 90% chance of dying. So it was quite shocking news for us. She required a lot of chemotherapy and then a bone marrow transplant. She had no warning signs or symptoms of being sick. We had no idea that she was sick at all until she got admitted to hospital. But what I want to talk about today is the positive out of this very negative situation, and that was the great love and support that we received from Tzu. This was Sunday, the 20th of November last year. This is This was an end-of-year function we held for autistic children. Tzu Sydney runs a number of classes for autistic children every weekend. This was the Christmas party that we arranged for them in November. This was Sharon 24 hours later, in hospital, in the emergency and Royal North, very sick. I'm glad for everyone, but the key meaning of this is constant. You know, life is definitely very impermanent, and you change your circumstances can change from being one to give help to needing help. That can happen in an instant. You know, when we became involved with Suji, we never ever thought that we would require any help ourselves. We became involved to help others, but then that's just the impermanence of life, how quickly things can change around. Through this process, we've developed a much deeper understanding to need assistance, and that's certainly helping us be better volunteers. Now, if we look at compassion and relief in action, so this is, you know, these two pictures, these side-by-side pictures. The first one is a picture I took at the Taipei Hospital in Taiwan, talking about the, you know, what is the intent of the Suji medical mission. But then the picture on the right shows that intent in action. Within 2 days of being in hospital, you know, we were very lucky that one master was visiting from Taiwan and could come and visit Sharon and give her a lot of support, which was very good. Suji gives love and support in good times and bad. These two pictures as well, two side-by-side pictures. The first is of our Christmas function for the children, and the next in hospital. And these pictures look very similar, except, of course, one's in very bad times, one's in very good times. But the constant message here is the love and support from Suji remains, and it remains exactly the same regardless of the circumstances. This picture, I think most, you know, would touch on most people here, is the power of Dharma with the power of the internet. That Sharon was in hospital for almost 6 months, and every Saturday she would listen to Brother Huang and Brother Yoping in this Dharma class, and this gave her a lot of comfort and support while she was in hospital. And I think if people remember back, the last time Sharon shared from hospital was actually last February, just before her bone marrow transplant. When she got first admitted to hospital, within 12 hours, the first visitor came from Suji, which is our CEO, Stephen Kang. But then within a few days, the tsunami started. We had visitors, you know, literally hundreds and hundreds of visits from Suji volunteers. And here's just a snapshot of pictures. But so the love and support we received from some of the brothers and sisters, just you cannot really imagine, you cannot ever fully appreciate or repay the kindness. Two of the sisters visited her over 80 times, you know, 80 times when she was in hospital. You know, it's just absolutely amazing what people did. And people went above and beyond in their help. You know, this is a picture of my daughter. She shaved her hair off to raise money for leukemia research. And people listening to this presentation now, hopefully with decent audio quality, also contributed to her fundraising efforts. So thank you very much to those people that did that. But when my daughter went in to have her hair cut off, there was a big group from Suji came to give her support. And from this negative event, a lot of positive things happened. People went out of their way to do good things. So the Jing went as a very big group and donated blood, and all those that were physically able to, healthy and what have you, also joined the bone marrow registry. So out of this negative affair, a lot of positive things happened. You know, Suji is definitely family. I mean, this picture is a very touching picture for me personally, because this was the exact day that she got, that Sharon got her bone marrow transplant. So this was the day that marked the change from being a cancer patient almost dying to being a bone marrow transplant recipient and starting to recover. So the people in this picture are all very important to us. Now, half the people in this picture are our family related by blood, and half Suji family. But when you just look at this picture, you can't tell who is who, because actually Suji is family. There is no difference. I look at this picture, everyone in this photo is our family, and I think this is a very good example of Suji in action. And this is a picture of Sharon now. This is you know, cancer-free, touch wood, and living life. This is a picture of my daughter's high school graduation, just taken before I came to Africa. This is the first time that Sharon's been out of the house, that's not been in the hospital since last November. So she's still very weak. She just started to drive a car again, but her hair is starting to grow back. She's starting to get a bit stronger. So things are very positive. And what this really shows as well is that, you know, we come back to the beginning, you know, that we're in a state of constant change. Everything's impermanent. So a year ago, our life changed for the worse when she got sick, and now it's changed again for the better. Now she's got better. And I think that is another good lesson to just how impermanent life is and how change is very constant. So with that, I will leave you. So thank you very much, everyone. I hope that you managed to see everything okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brother Robert and to Sister Sharon. We are so happy for you all. I mean, when you show the pictures, it just reminds me so much of how that really is almost really near a year ago when we hear Sister Sharon sharing online with all of us, and at that time she was away in the hospital. And I know all brothers and sisters around the world, we're all praying for her, and then we are really all so happy that she has recovered, and congratulations, and really it's a really big family, and we are very grateful. We are really grateful that everything has turned for the better. So really full blessings for all of us over here, and thank you again for the rest of the little bit of time. We actually have our brothers and sisters from Sri Lanka over here also. So I wonder if we could have some time for them to share with us. Could we have Brother Arosha to share with us?
Good morning, everyone. This is the first time, very first time I'm joining this session. I have been joined one time from Sri Lanka because of time difference in Sri Lanka and here. It's quite difficult for us to join online. So I have to share something to Brother Joe's sharing. It was quite deep Dharma. According to Buddhism, that's a thing we have to understand, the impermanency and how impermanence everything. So if we really understand about this impermanency in deep, we can avoid sufferings. We can minimize our sufferings. Of course, currently we can't do, at the moment we can't do much deeper because we are still ordinary human being. So this is the opportunity with Suchi we have received to learn about this. We knew this one since childhood about this impermanency, but not practicing. Not practicing means not concerned much about that. So now with our age and with this Suchi life, we are realizing little by little. So if we keep away the attachments, we minimize our attachments in this life, we can minimize our sufferings. So for example, we have family. I have family. I'm very well attached for them. So at the beginning, a few years, I'm talking about a few years before, I cannot leave home for like these days. Now I'm here in 3 weeks in Taiwan. I believe I'm little practicing the minimized attachments. So hopefully this is our practice from many lives. I mean, not only this life, from previous life. So that's why we are practicing this. Maybe we were together in life before. We were in different countries, speaking different languages, but we are like one family now. It means we have some kind of affinity in our previous life. So what I have to share with you all, let's try to minimize our attachment with physical things, so we can minimize our sufferings in this life. For example, we saw during the tsunami, many families passed away. Some families remain only, I know one family, relatives, remain only mother, husband and children all go. So it's so sad. It's so sad, it's unbearable. So finally that mother became, now she's in the monastery. So at least she's in the monastery, but still when she sees us, she cries, because still she has that's because of the strong attachment. So I personally, in my personal level, I learned something from tsunami, how impermanent things and how we suffer because of this attachment. So my sharing is let's practice this, to stay minimizing attachment to physical things. So, thank you so much for all, and thank you, Brother Joe, for giving this opportunity to share with you. Thank you, Kanan.
Thank you so much, Rosha, for the sharing. Indeed, when we realize the impermanence, we can let go of our attachment to the material and we'll be more happy. Okay, we still have a bit of time, so I'd like to quickly go to the Q&A. Why some people are born naturally homosexual? Would it be related to their past lives, vows not to have children? Well, first thing first, I wouldn't hope that vows not to have children would become homosexual. Of course not. I mean, if not all, no, I mean, no. I mean, well, actually, when Buddha shares about cause and effect, really, it's to tell us to be aware of our cause and not to guess the causes and not from our results. For example, for those that are born without a hand, does it mean that they have still in their past lives? I mean, we don't guess of people's past lives and then think of and then give stereotypes to people, but instead see how we can transform ourselves when we all have different kinds of tendencies. How do we transform ourselves and be cautious of the seeds that we are planting in our hearts right now, so that we do not get the unwholesome results. So actually, on this topic, I've also had Zhang, one of our youth, asked me about it before, because she says that he has a friend that also has such tendency. So he feels very uncomfortable when he's put together with a group of all boys, because to him, it feels that it's a boy put together with all girls, and then the kind of feeling to him. So he's asking how to help this person. So the time I shared to her that actually it's not, actually Master hope we could let go of xiao ai, this kind of small love, between different gender, this love, this attachment to a different gender, even that we should let go. Of course, it's the same for the same gender. We should let go of the kind of attachment, the kind of small love, and then open up that love to be a great love that no matter what gender, no matter what races, no matter what background, it's all the same. So in that same path of practice, then no matter what kind of gender tendency we have, we are all practicing to let go of the kind of attachment to whether same or a different gender. We let go of it, and then we are all just brothers and sisters. So there will be no need to feel worried or so much, but practice to let go of such differences, and then we will be all the same. So no need to be troubled by these kind of topics, because I know that up on the news there is a lot of discussions and dialogues on it, but really we are all just brothers and sisters. Let go of such attachment. This is what I feel. Okay, and there's also a question on stray dogs. If there are stray dogs around, and there are also dog shelters that are hoping we could get sponsored to spay dogs. Is this advisable? Spay the dog meaning that to sterilize so that the dog does not reproduce anymore. After our discussion, we were thinking that actually, the first thing first, we got to, like for example, we know of dengue fever, and then so when there are mosquitoes around, government also have to come and exterminate the mosquitoes. And why? And what do they always say? No, we do not focus on extermination of mosquitoes. We should focus on them not breeding. So so in the same way, so that's why I know we always put the buckets down. We do not let water collect. In the same way, how does all the stray dogs come about? I'm sure they don't come from the forest, right? They would have been pets some time, and then was let go. Then was let to roam around. So in the same way, first, please take care of our pets. Second, there's really no need to have a pet. I mean, again, there's attachment. So, but in any case, start from the source and take care of all sentient beings, and don't raise animals because of our own desires to have them. And then at the end, we didn't take care of them. They then become stray, and then they have to suffer from all these treatments. So again, focus on the cause and see how we can do that. Okay, but of course, well, personally, I think for stray dogs, sterilizing them, at least let them naturally come and go. So that's, well, the kind of well, it's an option. Okay, so but again, focus on the cost.